She was riding her bicycle and she was coming down a hill through a traffic light. The light turned yellow. She was in the intersection when it did. Another car started up, hit her, knocked her to the ground. She flipped over, was unconscious for about 2 minutes. She came to and wanted to go home to her mother, who lived nearby. The ambulance came. Not surprisingly, an ambulance was called when you see a child hit like that, and asked her many times, was she okay? And she said, yes, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, I want to go home. Then the police came and they said, are you okay? And she said, I'm okay. And they said, don't leave. And she said, I'm okay, I'm okay. And she was riding her bicycle. Then a rather large policeman grabbed her physically without giving any warning or saying why, grabbed her physically off the bike, then held her very tightly by her wrist. Another officer came. They were putting on handcuffs on her. They never told her why they were doing this, never said, you're being arrested for this or that. They never asked her about her condition. They never asked her if she had a concussion. They never asked her if she was injured. They never asked her what happened. They never asked her for her version of this accident. They were putting on the handcuffs very tight so that they hurt her wrist. She was pulling away after being grabbed and manhandled. They then at one point, and I've got the video, slung her while her hands were behind her, and after pulling her arms up high behind her in an unnatural, painful position. And I might add that this young lady is an honor student. She's a soccer player and also a wrestler. Her brother's a state champion. She hasn't won a state championship yet, but who knows? They pulled her arms up high behind her and then flung her, and we've got the video, into a cement wall which had a protruding windowsill, and her face hit it. And if you don't think that hurts, try it yourself. It hurt a lot, and then you could see the pain on her face. They then were dragging her by one handcuff. She fell down. They dragged her by one handcuff, and ultimately her shoes came off. They ended up putting her in a police car. She was unable to scoot back because her hands were behind her. Her feet were on the ground. She's just 5 foot tall with shoes on. And they then slammed the car door, and to administer, I suppose, a little street justice or to give her a rough ride, they never seatbelted her as they're supposed to do. They then shot a spray of pepper spray through, as they had done just before they closed the door. They shot another one through the door, and then an officer got in and shot another pepper spray back through the partition. All in all, there were 4 times that she was pepper sprayed, and one time right in her mouth. And she was never given any water. She was then jostled and taken to the police station, all the time without any relief. She got to the police station, once again, no water. They said, one cop said, well, put her in a cell. Here was a girl, they never asked her what was wrong, if she was injured. She was, you're gonna hear from her in just a minute. She's got a statement that she herself has written, and she's going to read it to you. The mother came. They told the mother, we're going to take her to Baltimore, and they didn't mention Johns Hopkins Hospital. Then the mom took her home after a period of time. The dad took her to the hospital, where Meredith Hospital. And there she told the story then spontaneously, without any advice from counsel or anyone else, what had happened, where she said she'd been slammed into the wall, where she said that she had passed out. She was LOC. That's
Loss of consciousness?
without consciousness, yes. Loss of consciousness, that's LOC, that's what that means. And that's in the medical report that you have here. They diagnosed her with a possible concussion and numerous other injuries. This is one of the worst cases of police brutality that I have seen in more than 40 years of practicing law. Here was someone who really should have been giving some loving, tender care and help, but instead was treated brutally. Now, she is going to read her statement that she wrote herself, and I want you to speak out so that we can hear you, and read it slowly, okay?
I was riding my bike down Randolph Avenue. It's a big hill. By the time when I went through the yellow, changing to red, I then tried to make a left turn and a gray car was coming towards me. As I turned, we collided and my whole right side of the body hit the car and then went to the ground and I was knocked out. After waking up, everything was blurry for a second. I stood up trying to shake it away by shaking my head repeatedly. I was a little dizzy, but the man that hit me was in the car and I heard him say, "Call 911 for an ambulance." I told him no multiple times that I was okay. So he ignored me and proceeded to call. Then a bystander that had saw what happened picked up my bike and put my chain back on that had popped off after colliding. He then handed me my bike and I walked to the other side of the street with it and I proceeded to get back on the bike, but I fell off again. And after another man who was first to immediately run over to me when he saw what had happened, asked me to stay and not leave so they can make sure I'm okay. I kept telling him I'm okay, I'm fine, over and over. I just want to go home. About 3 minutes later, a fire and rescue SUV pulls up. He jumps out and walks up to me and starts asking me a bunch of questions. Asking if I'm okay, I repeatedly told him I'm okay, there's nothing wrong with me. And about 30 seconds later, a fire truck pulls up along with 2 officers. Later pulled up, it was an unmarked cop car. After saying I'm okay about 30 times to the fire truck people, the 2 officers walk over to me and proceed to ask me the same questions as everyone else was asking me. Are you okay? Where's your parents? Where do you live? What's your mom's phone number? I did not feel comfortable telling them my information, so I told them I was fine. As I continued to ride my bike in circles, the cop stops me and starts asking more questions, and I didn't want to answer them, so I told them I was going to continue to ride my bike in circles, because I was told not to leave. And the officer then grabs me by my backpack, pulling me up off of the bike, while another holds my handlebars. I start pulling away because I did not want to be touched. I was still dizzy and oddly angry. I was confused what was going on. So one cop grabs my hand and tells me I'm being detained. So I then tell my friend to take my phone, and he starts recording, and that's when I kept telling them to get off of me because I did not know why I was being detained. So the 2 officers tried to slam me on the ground by throwing their legs in front of mine and trying to trip me over a curb. So I stood my ground and did not let them because I was afraid what was going to happen next if I was to be slammed on the ground. So they get me over the curb and try to put me up against the wall. And I put my foot up to stop that, and that's when a man walks over and is trying to talk to me. And the large cop pulls out a taser and points it at his chest. So I get scared and start pulling away more while one cop is leaning on me and the other is holding my arm. He puts the taser away and tries to get a hold of my wrist and kept saying I'm being detained. And I asked for what over and over, and I got no response. So the officer grabs my hand and I say, I'll tell you all my information, just get off of me. And they said, well, just turn around and put your hands behind your back. And I asked for what, and he responds with, you're being detained. The large cop puts one handcuff on my wrist as tight as possible and holds the other, and as he pulls with all his strength, I scream, get off of me, and he tries to push my shoulder forward and my arm was pulled backwards, which hurt, so I started to pull away and scream. I fall down and he pulls my arm back up by the handcuff and slings me up against someone's concrete windowsill. I then hit my head hard again and start crying, and they continue to try to get the handcuff on my other wrist. And the large cop continues to pull me by the one handcuff that was on my wrist. It was on my right wrist. The other cop takes my other arm roughly and pulls it back as far as possible. I then scream and jump up and down, saying that my arms hurt. They got the handcuffs on me, and I try to sit on the ground, and they tell me to stand up while I was having a panic attack. I started having a panic attack, not really hearing anything that's being asked, but I remember I was screaming and trying to say, "Get off of me." I remember trying to get up, and they were pushing down on my shoulders, which made me panic more. And they stand me up and start walking me to the car, and I collapsed and blacked out again, and I was picked up, and I was kicking my feet as one cop holds my arms and the other holds my legs and carry me to the car and throw me in there. I am forced into the car as they start yelling at me to calm down, and I say I can't multiple times because I'm having a panic attack, and I start screaming for an officer named Zach. They then asked me if his name was Zach McCoy, and I say yes. I was like, "Call him, he is a black officer." Zach is the only officer in Hagerstown that I know, so I asked them to call. He said that he is not calling Zach, and the third officer then climbs in the car and tries to force my legs in. As I put them in the car, the cop maces me one time with the door open, then shuts the door partially and sprays me two more times with it going in my mouth, and then completely shut the door and gets in the front seat and sprays again. I then scream that I can't breathe because I have mace in my mouth, and they drive off really fast. I'm not strapped in. The cop stops at a stoplight and pulls up next to a car as I'm crying and pulls the window up, which I was using to clear my throat because I had mace in it. So I start choking more, and we get to the station, and they try to snatch me out the car roughly. And I'm in handcuffs, so it was not easy for me. They get me out, and they slam me up against another parked car and take me to the station saying, "Put her in a cell." So they start to drag me down the steps as I asked multiple times to slow down because I could not walk. They ignored me and told me to walk right. When we get to the basement, they sit me down on a bench and begin to search through my stuff as a female officer searches me. And after that, they sat me back down as I continue to cry that my face and my shoulders are burning. And they tell me that if I can act right, they will take the handcuffs off and let me go to the bathroom, and I beg them to. I then go to the bathroom and try to clean my face, but the water's barely coming out of the faucet. And I try to clean my face as best as possible, and another cop tells me not to wipe my face, but I did anyway. Before he said that, I wiped my face anyway and start to scream more. As I leave out the bathroom and sit back on the bench, another cop that was there at the scene says, "Do you think it would hurt more if I was to punch you in your face and get a black eye or get maced?" I say, "Oh, really? You would really punch me in my face?" And he shakes his head and says yes. They then tell me that I can't see my mom until I answer all of their questions. They were asking me a bunch of questions, asking me where I lived and my parents' phone number and everything. I did not feel comfortable answering their questions. Do I have to read more?
Is that the end?
I'm done.
Good. Okay, and then you went to the hospital, is that correct?
I was then picked up by my mother, who was in the station waiting for me to come up, and we rode back to my house, and my father's there. My father volunteers to take me to the hospital, and we get to the hospital, and they immediately take me back to a room, and they asked what happened, and my father told them everything, and they start to flush my eyes out with stuff to get the mace out of my eyes because I could not see. And that's it.
Did they tell you you had a concussion?
When they came back with the reports, they said that I had a concussion and that I had whiplash, so they put a neck brace on me, and I was laying there on the bed. I had a full body scan to make sure nothing on my body was broken, and I had a head CT to make sure I did not have any brain injuries. That was it.
Thank you very much. Now Mom wants to make a statement.
I would just like to say that I received the call about 3:01 p.m. in the afternoon from Officer Eichelberger that my daughter was in custody here at the police station. I came to the police station. I believe it was Sergeant Hay that met me at the door. I asked him why my daughter was here. He said that she was involved in a motor vehicle accident and that she needed to be questioned. I, at that time, asked to be with my daughter and was told that I was not allowed to be. I advised him that she was 15 years old and she was a minor and that I have the right to be with my child. He told me, no, I did not. I also advised him, once he said that I wanted counsel present, that I wanted an attorney there. I was told I was not allowed to have an attorney, to go hire one. I asked 2 more times for an attorney and was told by him to go hire one. This is all on video as well. I asked him how long my daughter was going to be held for, and he told me as long as it took for her to answer their questions, and if she didn't want to, they would take her down to Baltimore and fingerprint her. A few minutes later, my daughter was brought upstairs. I was never asked for ID. I was never given paperwork to sign my daughter out of their custody. I was never given any charging documents stating that my daughter was charged with anything.
Did they tell you she was going to be charged?
They said they were going to refer it to juvenile services.
Did they say anything about assault on officers?
Did not say anything about any type of charges, just that it would be referred to juvenile services.
Okay. And I might point out that the young lady had her 15th birthday just less than a month ago on August 28th.
Ma'am, what do you think? Why do you think things elevated to the way they did?
I think my daughter was confused with what had just happened. I believe that, maybe her being unconscious and coming to being scared and just wanting mom, wanting to come home, wanting, to be where she felt safe. And, I don't feel that the officers handled it properly. You don't take a 15-year-old child that's just been hit by a car and slam her up against a windowsill. You don't take a 15-year-old child and put him in handcuffs and shut a door and mace him 4 times. I heard the interview from the chief earlier where he states that she was maced 1 time. We have it on video. It's all on video. 4 times she was maced. She was slammed up against the wall. That's on video as well.
Ma'am, do you feel your daughter acted appropriately when a police officer approached her and said, we want to help you?
I feel that things probably could have went a little bit differently. I feel that, as I stated, I feel my daughter was probably scared. And, with everything that's going on in the society now with police, not everybody is trusting of them. The one officer she did know, she did ask for. I feel that if he had been there, things would have been totally different. That doesn't mean that, I don't teach my children to disrespect police officers. I don't teach my children to disrespect adults. Plain and simple, my kids are kids first and foremost. But I try to make them the most productive citizens that they can be. My son, as you were told, is a 2-time state champion.
Do you feel she did disrespect the police officer?
I feel that maybe the way things came out, it could have been handled better on her part.
Yeah.
I feel it could have been handled better on her part, but I don't know that she was even in the right frame of mind. The child was knocked unconscious.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, in the video, if the officer is so concerned with her having a brain injury, why was she not transported to the hospital? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Dave, I think you mischaracterized it when you said that the officer came up to her and said, "What can I do to help you?" That was not the case. She was grabbed from behind physically and yanked off her bike, which is a rude awakening and not one that would engender much trust from a young lady who's just turned 15 and who is of a smaller size.
Man, before this incident, how have you and your family been treated by the police here?
Here in Hagerstown,
Yeah.
I've not had any issues with the police here. I mean, I have lots of friends that are police officers. Lots of friends.
Tell them about the story that when the officer approached me and we tried to get charges on him.
We'll talk about that later. I mean, you know, we have officers that are friends. We respect them. That's their job. They have a job to do. But how they reacted with my child, in my opinion, was excessive.
And
That was excessive.
I want to say one thing. I don't think this family has any racial issues. This family has resolved all its racial issues. The mom is Caucasian, the dad
This
is
is nothing
African
about
American.
race. This has nothing to do about race.
These kids have been booming successes. This is not about race. This is how a young lady has been treated.
How do you think the police officer should have handled it?
Well, I feel that, okay, in one of the videos, you know, the officer is stating that what if they let her go and she has a possible brain injury and something happens? The police chief said in his interview earlier, you know, what if, you know, something had happened to her and we let her go? Then what? If they were so concerned over her safety, why was she not, if she was combative, why was she not put into an ambulance and strapped down? Why was she not taken to the hospital straight in the police car? She was in handcuffs. What else could she do?
But they also say that their rationale for this, and they say it was acceptable, was twofold. Both that they were concerned about her medical condition and
That's a complete lie. That's a complete lie.
they say she was not cooperating in the investigation.
Okay, well, they also didn't do their job fully either, because if they're concerned with her medical, they should have carried her to the hospital. Plain and simple, whether they knew who she was or not. You find a person knocked out on the street that doesn't have ID, do you handcuff them and put them in a police car and take them to the police station, or do you take them to a hospital?
They never asked the young lady one question about whether or not she was injured or what her physical condition was. And I saw a police release where they said there were no injuries. They never asked her if there were any injuries. And a Redskin who's been knocked out on the football field would have a number of specialists around him and would be taken to a hospital. She was treated like no young lady should be treated after she'd been knocked out. Why wouldn't they even ask her, why was an ambulance called? Why wouldn't they ask her if she had any injuries?
Ma'am, can we ask your daughter a couple of questions?
Sure.
Simple questions.
Depending on what it is, come on.
Could you just
Can we
tell
get
us?
her name?
No, sir, I don't want the name because this family's going to be contacted and harassed on the telephone. I can tell you because I've received a lot of calls.
Could-
What question you want to ask her?
Well, from your description, you said what was happening. Can you just maybe, instead of reading, tell us maybe your state of mind? It was confusing. Were you upset, or what was happening when this all was going on?
I was very upset. I was very confused. I told them multiple times that I was okay. In my head, I knew I was not okay. I knew that if I was okay, things would stop and everything would go away. But that's not what happened.
Well, they came to you after the accident happened, and then they were asking your name and information. Why didn't you feel comfortable telling them that?
I'm a very private person. I do not like telling my information to anyone.
Yeah, I might add that this young lady has no training whatsoever on how to be arrested. These police have lots of training on how to take someone in custody and hopefully specialized custody on how to take a young lady into custody.
Sweetheart, can you just tell us why you fought them so hard?
Why? I was scared.
And when they told you they were there to help you, you didn't believe them.
I told them that they said that they were there. They said I was not in trouble. They just wanted to make sure I was okay. I told them I was okay multiple times.
But you were not okay. You said you had a concussion.
I told them I was okay. I can't
She's not a medical
diagnose
doctor.
myself with a concussion.
She's not a doctor,
Exactly. That's my point.
so she doesn't know if she's okay or
First of
not.
all, she's a baby.
I had
Understand
Okay.
that part.
Okay, that's
It's all right. That's enough.
That's why we took her to the hospital so that she could be diagnosed.
And as a matter of fact, one of the officers very clearly says in the video that we want to take her in to see if she has a brain injury or she might die. So obviously the cops knew she might not be okay, but they didn't treat her that way.
Can we speak to her father?
Her father's not present right now.
Her father is working.
Yeah.
He hasn't made
I'm a
it here
family
yet.
support friend.
This is Akil Patterson is.
Just as the police chief now says that when everything that the police officers did was within the guidelines and that they acted appropriately. Can you tell us what you think of what the police chief said?
I just hope they don't do it to somebody else's child.
I don't know the police guidelines. I don't know what they're trained to do.
I don't think that's a question she can really answer. I think that they should have at least asked her version of the accident at some point, which they didn't do. They should have asked her if she was injured instead of sending out a press release saying there were no injuries. They never asked her that. They should have explained to her, why is it necessary to grab you off your bike? Why is it necessary to put your hands up high behind your back? Why is it necessary to put the handcuff on tight? Why is it necessary to slam you into a wall? Why is it necessary to put you in a police car without a seatbelt? Why is it necessary to mace you 4 times? Why is it not necessary to take you to a hospital? Well, what's next is that we have to, evidently they're going to bring criminal charges against her, and we're going to defend those vigorously. And
Are you going to sue civilly?
well, we have some time to do that, but you know what they say? They say, don't get mad, get even. So here, she's been mistreated, and they haven't even apologized. As a matter of fact, they're trying to point the finger at her as the wrongdoer. And just remember that when you point a finger at someone else, you've got 3 fingers pointing back at yourself.
Would you be willing to participate in restorative justice? In other words, get your showboating lawyer and sit down with these cops and have a mediation session.
Fine. I don't know who you are, sir, and right now that is not the time
We've
or
got a
place for that
showboating
conversation.
intruder on our press conference here, sir.
Sir, just not right now. Sir, not right now, though.
If you want to debate, go down to the local diner.
No, we can have a conversation later, Kurt. Right. Yeah, that's a separate conversation. Yeah, we definitely should, but that's a separate conversation that is not for this area right now.
This young lady needs legal representation, and she's going to get it.
So my question for you, Mr. Mayor, do you condone what your officers did to my daughter?
I think this is an absolute terrible incident. I think that obviously I have compassion for everybody involved in this whole incident. From the person who was in the car when the bicycle struck the car.
You've got that
wrong. Wait a minute, can I stop you right there?
Got that wrong.
Nobody questioned my daughter to determine who was at fault.
Tell the truth, Mr. Mayor. Tell the truth.
Where's your compassion then? Coward?
Ask him, do we have a 15-year-old child?
Developing frontal lobe. She has very little impulse control. I understand that.
So tell me why your officers didn't take her to the hospital.
Mr. Mayor, if Akil Patterson comes over there and grabs you, you will have very little impulse control. I guarantee it.
I'm gonna listen. At this time, I do not victim blaming mayor. I do not. Excuse me, folks. Please, ma'am. Please. I am asking everybody now. There is a child here. There is a child, and it's not between me and you to argue. Me and Mr. Ficker have had our differences in the past, but we have hashed those out. We do not always theoretically agree on the injustices that occur or how things happen, but if we sit down as adults and not throw a child who's going through some trauma in front of these cameras, I'm here all the way from Baltimore. I didn't come here to argue right now, and we can talk later. We can sit down.
If you want to make an election speech, make it somewhere else.
There you go. There you go. That's exactly what he's doing.
We'll talk later. Robin, let's end this.
Okay, that's it.
That's exactly what he's doing.
You sound crazy, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, he does.
You sound crazy, Mr. Mayor. You don't got our vote. You don't got mine either. Are you serious? That's the mayor.
All right, everyone. So the press conference here in front of the Hagerstown Police Department has just wrapped up. You were hearing from Mr. Robin Ficker, the attorney for the young lady, and her family. Her mother and her brother were here as well. Hagerstown Mayor David Geisberts appeared. You heard him right at the very end. Of course, he's calling for restorative justice in this whole process. What we want everyone to remember, though, we did hear from Hagerstown Police Chief Victor Brito earlier this afternoon. You can go back and watch that video too. And of course, we're getting two different conflicting stories. So that wraps up the press conference. But what you can't see from right here, I do have it on Facebook though, is we have a line of protesters along Burhans Boulevard. They are lined up from the very end of Washington Street all the way up to the shopping center. So just kind of an idea what's going on. They have been lined up the entire time. So we're going to turn back to the scene. Thanks for joining us.